Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Emily Sophia, aka Mighty Sophia, here at long last to break down for you guys the season 4 opener of Bates Motel, which is entitled A Danger to Himself and Others. So, spoiler alert, before I dive into the mad thick of things, as I shall be doing my best to bear all in this review. Now, full disclosure, full transparency, this is not the first time that I have tried to film this review. In fact, I filmed it last night and it was great and perfect and I said everything I think that I want to say, but as I was uploading the video, I accidentally overwrote the file. Can you imagine? So, I apologize if I completely forget to address something huge in this episode because, well, I might trick myself into thinking that I'm repeating myself when in fact this is the first time I'm discussing it with you. So, we are off to an impeccable start. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I have to wear my glasses because I can't fit my contacts in my freaking eye holes. So, anyway, let's talk. Let's begin. So, just in case you guys didn't know, and actually I did not know this until yesterday, this is the penultimate season of Bates Motel. Which, I mean, if you saw the events of the premiere, you could probably tell that, yeah, we are closing in on things. Eye on the prize, or rather, eye on the origins of the true bona fide psycho. So, yeah, and this would mean that, of course, we get a 5-season run for the show, which 5 is starting to become a bit of a golden number in my mind because, well, that's as long as Breaking Bad ran, and the writers were able to do that story absolute justice. I would say that Bates Motel is perhaps a little bit messier, a little less finely tuned, but oh so overflowing with raw emotion and craziness, the kind that I love to sink my teeth into. So yeah, penultimate season, guys. Now, this particular episode, I got a few issues with, but did really enjoy. I am oh so glad to be back in the realm of White Pine Bay. And apparently Mother is really alive and kicking, as is greatly evidenced by the fact that she comes out to play at the very end and axes Emma Ducote's estranged mother. Now, this is something that I actually discussed with one of my good friends, Austin, on Twitter the other evening, which is, what was Mother's motive to kill in this way? Because previous kills in which Mother has been involved are out of sexual jealousy, and that is the core impetus for Norman's violent descent. But this is another situation entirely, and it's one that's, it's a little controversial because can we really... I think that the reason why Mother came out swinging like this with this poor woman who was trying desperately to reconnect with her daughter, Norman is in his beautiful silken bathrobe listening to her sob story and then proceeds to inform her that, well, she's not been a very good parent. I think that the reason why Emma's mother bit the dust in this episode is, well, the writers are really trying to get us on the murder train, which I hope that they don't careen down the tracks too quickly, because really where the show gets its energy and its pull and its magnetism from is, I think, the chemistry between Norman and Norma, and of course between Vera Farmiga and Freddie Highmore, who have taken these roles and run with them into the sun, into the stars, into the great beyond, and taken me right along with them. So, yes. So to let us see more of this violence bursting forth, but then also I think to foreshadow the circumstances in which Norma is ultimately going to meet her maker. Because in this case, Norman/Mother is accusing Emma's mother of abandoning her child, and abandonment is something that Norman is grappling with in a very big way. in this episode, especially with his mom leaving him behind and locking him in his room. So, of course, all of those raw emotions are fresh in his mind, and he's got just enough volatility to make him a powder keg of destruction. So this, I believe, is foreshadowing. Still, it's weird to see Mother kill in this kind of circumstance, but I guess not completely outlandish. However, I do hope that they pull back the reins a little bit. I really don't need to see the body count stack too high to sense that the stakes are raising, you know? But yeah, so I definitely anticipate that this is going to be the beginning of a great many fantastic episodes and much more time spent with Norman and Norma, because mostly what we see in this episode is Norma running around desperately, as she always does, trying to go to bat for her son to get him premier treatment ASAP, to the point that she is driven to make a slapdash proposal to Alex Romero, of all people, purely for the insurance money. She assures him it's totally okay. So yeah, I mean, she goes from flirtation and seduction to coercion, and that's one of the show's other strongest pieces, of course, is Norma's own particular blend of insanity. And I think that she is violently fighting back against the idea that she is a negligent mother, as the woman at the psych ward where Norman ends up suggests. So she thinks, oh, hell no. I am his angel and saint and savior and protector and the almighty feminine being of his life. I will not stand quietly by as people try to poke holes in my business. So, and I think that too drives a stake between her and Emma's mother, because she doesn't want to have anything to do with a woman who has been separated from her progeny. And Norma can only see herself in the light of doing what is right for Norman. She can't possibly have her motives called into question. She is, I mean, yes, for as strong-willed as she is incredibly vulnerable. And we see that spilling out of every seam of her being in this episode. And that, I think, is the strongest aspect that we've got going on here. We also get to delve a little bit further into Norman's subconscious, where we see him as he's recovering at the psych ward. These gold-tinged memories of happy days with his mother as a child, and then the dark, shadowy bloodiness of his latest escapade with Mother. And it's really interesting too, because he's trying to get validation from both Mother and Norma. He doesn't want either version of this woman that he loves to try to brush off what he feels that he has done to Bradley. All of that is bubbling to the surface, and so he needs someone to say, like, hey, this is gonna be okay, not like everything's fine. He knows that it's not fine. So this is kind of the area in which Norman is operating as we find him in this episode, and it's pretty crazy to see. It's also interesting to see the juxtaposition between his recovery and Emma's recovery, whereas ostensibly she is on the up and up and her lung transplant surgery was textbook perfection. Well, Norman is currently careening into further unprecedented territory, so a little something to keep your eyes peeled for. But yeah, so we get little dashes of Romero in the episode too, of course, as Norma comes barking up his tree with all of her needs and anxieties. And I mean, the guy is quite a forbearing soul. I do, in fact, believe that he is going to be the one beside whom Norma is buried in the end. And I don't think that this is the end of the marriage story for them either. We know that there is quite a basis for their romance. There's a little bit of precedence there, and I think it's something that's going to emerge later on, even with Norma's failed attempt to collect his insurance money. He could just freaking reach in, under the brickwork in his house where he buried all that cash from murdering Bob Paris and be like, here you go, honey. Go crazy. Get your boy where he needs to be. But At the same time, Norman does not want to be separated from Mother. He is trying to reconcile the part of, you know, Mother, the all seductive being who is compelling him to do these despicable deeds, and then Norma, who is his peacemaker, his source of light and comfort and meaning in the world. It's the fight of the centuries, and it is one that is going to give us a crazy 2 seasons to enjoy. Yeah, so I am super ready for everything that's around the corner. Also interesting to look at the way that color was used in this episode. I paid a lot of attention to the light pastel pale blues, like the ones that, the color that Norman was wearing when he was in the psych ward. It was the color of his bed sheets and his pajamas. And then, whereas in Emma's recovery room, we see that she is kind of, it appears that she's wearing white, but there's a blue light that's cast on her, so there's this sense of peace and beauty and serenity, and it's contrasted with like the harsh yellows of the psych ward. And blue, of course, is greatly embodied in the character of Norma, so it's just fascinating to see how the palette of their relationship is kind of seeped into the visuals of the show. Another thing too to pay attention to is, well, I've been watching Twin Peaks like crazy lately, and so seeing Norman dolling all up in the mirror, looking like, trying to look like Norma, like Mother, and when he sees Mother in the reflection, it makes me think of a certain character from Twin Peaks seeing the Bob in the mirror. So great callbacks to an incredible show. Sadly, I have to go. I have to take off for work. But if there's anything major that I missed or failed to address in this episode, please, 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 by all means, bring it up in the comments, and I will be there with you guys soon. So you all take care, and as always, I'll be back before you know it.